There's a moment, and maybe you know this moment, where you're sitting alone at 2 a.m., staring at the ceiling, and the quiet gets so loud it almost hurts. That was Marcus, 24 years old. Lying on a mattress he'd bought secondhand off Facebook Marketplace, in a studio apartment that smelled faintly of the previous tenant's cigarettes in Columbus, Ohio. A city he'd moved to with big plans and a garbage bag full of clothes. He'd been there 11 months. The big plans were still waiting. Here's the thing about Marcus that you need to understand. He was the guy back home in Dayton. He was the one the teachers pulled aside after class to say, "You've got something special, Marcus." He was the one his mom cried over at high school graduation. Not sad tears, proud ones squeezing his face between her hands and whispering, "Baby, you were going to change this family's story." He'd gone to Ohio State on a partial scholarship, studied business, made decent grades. Not Dean's List, but decent. He graduated at 22 with a handshake, a diploma, and the absolute certainty that something good was right around the corner. That corner kept moving. He applied to 63 jobs in his first year out, got 11 interviews, 2 callbacks, 0 offers. So he moved to Columbus. Told himself it was a fresh start. Got a job at an Amazon warehouse working nights. Told himself it was temporary. Started a dropshipping business on the side. Watched it lose $800 in 3 months. Downloaded 4 different apps to learn to invest. Watched 1,000 hours of motivational content on YouTube. Made a vision board. Took it down. Made another one. Still at 2 a.m. The ceiling stared back. You were supposed to be further along by now. That thought, that one specific thought, was the one that was eating him alive. It was a Tuesday in March when his Uncle Darnell called. Marcus almost let it go to voicemail. Uncle Darnell was 61, retired, lived in Cincinnati, and had a habit of calling at inconvenient times to talk about one of 3 things. The Bengals, the price of gas, or some lesson he'd learned 40 years ago that he was convinced Marcus needed to hear. But Marcus picked up, maybe because the apartment was too quiet, maybe because somewhere deep down he needed a voice that knew him. Before all the disappointment. "How you doing, nephew?" "Good," Marcus said. The automatic answer. The armor. Pause on the line. Uncle Darnell had a gift for pauses. "No, you're not," he said. Not accusatory. Just certain. "The way you know weather." Marcus opened his mouth to argue, and instead heard himself say, "I just feel like I'm losing, Unc. Like everybody else is building something, and I'm just here." He hadn't planned to say that. Came out like something that had been waiting behind a door. Uncle Darnell was quiet for a moment. Then he said something Marcus didn't expect. "Can I tell you about the worst year of my life?" Marcus had always thought of his uncle as someone who had it figured out. Retired at 58, small house paid off, garden in the backyard. Always seemed steady, like a tree that had decided a long time ago that it wasn't going anywhere. But that night, Uncle Darnell told him about being 26. He'd been working construction in Cincinnati, nothing wrong with that, honest work. But he'd had dreams of opening his own contracting business. He'd saved up $4,000 over 2 years, which back then felt like a fortune. He found a partner, a guy named Gerald, who was smooth-talking and full of ideas. Gerald took the money and disappeared. $4,000. 2 years of sacrifice. Gone. "I remember," Uncle Darnell said slowly, "sitting on my mama's porch because I had to move back home, couldn't afford my apartment, and thinking, I am a fool. I will always be a fool. This is who I am." Marcus was quiet. "And you know what I did, Marcus?" "What?" I sat with that feeling for about 2 weeks. Really sat with it. Didn't run from it, didn't drink it away, didn't pretend it wasn't there. I just let it be true for a minute that I had messed up, that I had been naive, that I was starting over at 26 with nothing, and then what? Then one morning I woke up and I thought, is this who I want to be when I'm 60? Not rich, not famous, just, is the man I am right now the man I'll be proud of looking back at? He paused. The answer was no. So I started building the man I could be proud of, one day at a time, not for anybody else. Not to prove Gerald wrong or to make my mama happy or to keep up with my boys who were buying cars and acting like they had it all together. Just, for me, Marcus stared at the water stain on his ceiling. That vaguely looked like the state of Texas. Did it work? I asked, though he already knew the answer. I'm talking to you from a paid-off house with tomatoes growing in my backyard, Uncle Darnell said. It worked. The conversation lasted 2 more hours. By the end of it, something small but important had moved inside Marcus. Not a thunderbolt, not a revelation. Just a small, quiet shift, like a key turning in a lock that had been stuck for a long time. He lay there after they hung up, and he thought about the question his uncle had asked. Is the man I am right now the man I'll be proud of looking back at? He thought about his days honestly. Not harshly, not with the usual self-loathing spiral, but honestly. What did his days actually look like? He woke up around noon, scrolled his phone for an hour before getting up. Complained about his warehouse job to anyone who would listen, but hadn't seriously looked for another one in 4 months. He'd started and abandoned a business idea. So fast he barely counted them. He was spending money on subscriptions to courses he hadn't opened. He was watching other people build things and feeling a hot, ugly jealousy that he'd never fully admitted to himself. He wasn't proud of that man. But here was the thing, and this was the part that changed everything for him. He wasn't that man yet. Not permanently. That man was a habit, not a destiny. He grabbed a notebook off the floor, an old college one, half empty. And he wrote a question at the top of a blank page. What would I do tomorrow if I was trying to make myself proud? Not impress anyone, not go viral, not get rich, just proud, the quiet kind. The kind where you put your head on the pillow at night and think, yeah, I did something real today, he wrote for 40 minutes. The next 6 months weren't cinematic. There was no montage. There was no single moment where everything clicked and the path lit up in front of him. That's not how real life works, and Marcus was done pretending it was. What there was consistency. Small and unglamorous, and mostly invisible to everyone around him. He started waking up at 7 a.m. not because some guru told him the morning was magic, but because he'd noticed he felt better when he didn't waste half the day. He started going to bed when he said he would. He started keeping small promises to himself, because he'd realized self-trust is built the same way any other trust is built. He took the courses he'd paid for, finished them, applied what he learned. He stopped announcing plans on social media before he'd done anything. That was a big one. He realized he'd been getting a little hit of validation from just saying he was going to do something. The congratulations, they can't wait to see it. Comments, and it was quietly replacing the actual satisfaction of doing the thing. So he went quiet. He built in private. He picked one business idea. Just one, and he worked it seriously. He started a small handyman and home repair service, which wasn't glamorous, but he was good with his hands. He had tools. And he'd watched enough of his uncle's contracting work growing up that he knew more than the average guy. He made business cards. He made a Facebook page. He knocked on doors in a neighborhood near his apartment and offered free estimates. His first job paid $120 to hang 5 doors. He drove home that evening and sat in his car in the parking lot of his apartment complex, and he cried. Not because of the money, because for the first time in almost 2 years, he had done something and finished it. He had made a plan, and the plan had worked, and the work was real, and someone had paid him for it. He was proud, not the show-off kind of proud, the deep quiet, this is mine kind. 8 months after that phone call with Uncle Darnell, Marcus was driving to a job, a bathroom remodel. His biggest project yet, when a song shuffled on his playlist that he hadn't heard in a long time. It was something he used to listen to back in college, one of those tracks that takes you back instantly. And he had a strange experience. He thought about the version of himself from 2 years ago, he won, applying to 63 jobs. The one with the vision board, the one drowning in self-comparison and paralysis, and instead of feeling shame, he felt something softer, compassion. That kid had been trying. He'd been scared and lost and doing the best he could with what he understood at the time. He hadn't been lazy. He'd been confused. He'd been chasing the appearance of success instead of the practice of building, because that's what everything around him had taught him to chase. Highlight reels, LinkedIn announcements, before and after transformations with clean lighting. Nobody had told him that the real work happens in the middle. In the ugly, quiet, nobody clapping middle. He got to the job, he worked. He did good work. And on the drive home that evening, he called his mom. "How are you doing, baby?" she asked. This time instead of the armor, he said something true. "I'm doing good, Mama, like actually good." She could hear it. "Moms always can. I'm proud of you," she said. He almost said thanks, but instead he said something he'd never said before. "I'm proud of me too." Marcus's story isn't over. He's still building. He's not rich. He's not famous. He doesn't have a story that would make the news. But he has something that a lot of people spend their whole lives chasing without ever catching it. He has his own respect. And here's what he'd tell you. If he could sit across from you right now, stop running the race on someone else's track. You're comparing your Monday morning to someone else's Saturday night photo. That's not a fair comparison. The gap between who you are and who you want to be isn't a verdict. It's an invitation. The best thing Marcus ever did was go quiet, build in private, let the work speak when it was ready. And finally, the most important thing, make yourself proud. Start today, not Monday. Not when things calm down, not when you feel ready. Today, one small thing, one kept promise, one brick. That's how you build something that lasts. That's how you make yourself proud.